Of the Cherokee Edwards Inspires show, and today I am graced by the king of port financial services, Bob Tassone. What's up, Bob? What's going on with you?
Good morning, everybody.
Well, Bob, we've done this before. This is not our first time doing a podcast. I had you on the show a couple years ago in the beginning.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So, since then, we have done a couple business groups. You're doing a seminar for me today, a training for the entrepreneurs that I train. And I want to talk about the 2022 explosion, the entrepreneur explosion. Let's get into that. You graced the stage on that. What was your thoughts on the explosion?
Well, anybody starting out in business, that's the most exciting time. It's kind of like when you first meet the love of your life. The courtship is probably the most exciting time of that.
Right.
And so whenever something is new, that's really when you should be enjoying it. And even though it's probably more difficult when it's new.
Right.
That's really the best time.
Right. What were your thoughts on the explosion?
So there were a lot of people there with kind of new businesses.
Right.
So it's nice to see people that are not afraid to go out and start something.
Right.
And enjoying the journey, because that's all it is. Everything is a process.
Yes.
It's not. You never finished.
No, it's all about the journey.
Yeah.
It's not the destination. It is the journey.
Yeah. So enjoy the ride. Look out the window and take it in.
Right. Right. So what did you think about it? I mean, did you make some good contacts at the explosion last year?
I made some contacts, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of those people maybe this morning.
Yeah, you will. You actually will see a lot of them that were there last year. They'll be there, and they're already scheduled to join us for the second annual entrepreneur explosion. So that's fun. We got a whole new row that because people have been waiting for this. So that's pretty good. I wanted to make sure that a lot of the veterans, which is us, got on here and talked a little bit to the new entrepreneurs, the ones who have a little trepidation about, which way to go, how to do it, and not go broke in the process. A lot of people, that's their greatest fear of doing business, is they're afraid of going broke as they, embark on their, entrepreneurship.
Well, it's difficult because it's awfully nice to be properly capitalized when you're starting out, but most people don't start that way.
Right.
So, but you've got to make a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, make a plan with the worst case scenarios. Everything worst case scenario plugged in. Worst case.
Right.
If it still works under the worst case, then you're good.
You're right. Definitely.
Then you plug in the best case.
Right.
And you should be flying if everything goes right.
Definitely. And you do a lot with helping people insure. Obviously, we use you for insuring our business. But talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about insuring businesses and the importance of insuring businesses.
Well, most people get insurance for their business because they're required to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
They're required to because they sign a lease, or because they're starting a job.
Right.
They're a contractor, and the person that's hiring them says, "Where's your license and where's your insurance?" So that's not really the best reason to get insurance, but that's the reason most people come around, because somebody tells them they have to do it.
Right.
But it's all about protection. When I sit down and talk to somebody, I'm talking to them today, the way they are, but I also have to be thinking about them on the worst day of their life.
Right.
When there's been a terrible accident or some type of catastrophe at work, or
the what ifs.
Yeah, all of the really bad things, because the worst thing that someone can do is call me on the phone and ask me, is this covered? And then I say, no, I'm sorry, it's not.
Oh.
Don't want to say that.
Right.
I mean, sometimes I can't help but say it.
I know you talk
but
about
most
it.
of the time, it's covered.
Right.
If you're dealing with me.
Right.
Because I try to think of everything.
Oh no, you do a heck of a job. I mean, you've walked us through a lot of the what ifs and make sure that we're covered on that. Matter of fact, that's what I was getting ready to bring up. You had an interesting way of putting it with our other business group, The Leading Edge, last Friday.
Well, I kind of just did that, didn't I? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you had an interesting way of putting it when we were talking about. You gave analogies to where if someone didn't have enough coverage, they actually become the bank.
Oh yeah. Well, they don't become the bank.
The insurance.
They become the insurance company.
Yes, the insurance company.
In other words, if you have insurance with XYZ Insurance Company, you pick the name.
Right.
State Farm,
Right.
Travelers, whatever.
Right.
There's billions and billions and billions of dollars in reserve to pay claims.
Right.
I mean, when you send them money, the premium, some of it they just have to sock it away.
Right.
They're required to, by law, to reserve money to pay claims, because when the hurricane comes through Florida or anywhere else, all of a sudden they got to start writing checks, and there's got to be money in the account.
Right.
For them to do that. Well, if you have inadequate insurance, and your liability limits run out,
Mm-hmm.
then you become the insurance company. And so the worst thing about having low liability limits is that, let's say something happens. There's some type of an incident, a car accident, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't your fault. But someone says, well, we think it was your fault, so they're suing you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't have enough insurance, the insurance company can just say, well, we'll just write a check and be done with it, because it's a low amount of insurance.
Right.
It would be cheaper for us to settle than it would be to fight it.
Right.
I want the insurance company to fight it, because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't my fault. And I want them to have enough skin in the game to fight it. And I don't want to have to pay for them to fight it. I want
Right.
them to pay for it.
Right.
So that's why you should have millions of dollars of liability coverage under some type of a umbrella policy,
Right.
and not thousands of dollars the way most people do on their automobile insurance.
Yeah, like you said last week, and my listeners didn't hear that, so I want them to hear it today. You know, you spoke about somebody, how fast that money can be eaten up.
Yeah, so if you're in an accident out on the highway, which happens every day,
Yeah.
and someone is hurt, they're hurt so badly that they say, well, we're going to call the helicopter to pick them up and take them to a trauma center like
Right.
MCV or Norfolk General.
Right.
Well, a helicopter ride can be tens of thousands of dollars just to get them to the hospital.
Right.
In Virginia, the liability limit minimum that's required by law is $30,000. So there are people driving around out there. If there was an accident, they don't even have enough insurance to get the person to the hospital, and that doesn't count multiple injuries or property damage or all of the other things that can come after
Right.
they get to the hospital.
Right.
Being in that trauma unit can be tens of thousands of dollars a day just to be there. And if you're in one of those, you're not just there for a day or two.
No. No.
they don't put you in the trauma unit just for a day.
Right. No,
you're there. You're there for a week or two.
Yeah, or longer.
Or whatever.
Right.
And so it's an expensive situation. And then it's just like with a storm, a hurricane. You know, you can weather the storm, and then after the storm is gone, you go outside and you look at the damage.
Right.
The aftermath.
Right.
And that's
where the work really begins.
That's really where the money is spent.
Right.
Fixing things. And
right.
Some if you hurt a person, sometimes they can't be fixed.
Right.
And so there's a pain or an injury that goes on for the rest of their life. And how do you put a price tag on that? There's plenty of lawyers on TV that try to put price tags on stuff like that and get money.
Right. They call them the ambulance chasers.
Yeah, but sometimes it's legitimate too.
Right.
Because you hurt somebody really bad.
Right. And you can cause them lifetime of pain, like you said.
Yeah. So if you don't have insurance, you become the insurance company. Well, you don't. So there's two things that they can go after. If you don't have insurance, they can go after your assets, your home, your savings. If you don't have anything there, then you can just go on a payment plan.
Wow.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah. Because you never
you have your income, and then, I mean.
Wow.
And so, if you don't have any assets, maybe you don't have that much to worry about because you can't get blood out of a rock or a turnip, right?
Right.
But if you do have assets, if you've worked hard and you've saved some money and you've built up some kind of a net worth, then you need to have insurance because you don't want that to be up for grabs.
Right.
If something happens.
So, as far as the entrepreneur goes, what would you say is a safe start for an insurance policy? I know what we did, but I'm just talking about the entrepreneur that's trying to get their business off the ground. What would you recommend?
Well, it depends on the business.
Okay.
It depends on the type of business that they're in. Mm-hmm. So name a business. I don't know. I
mean, let's say, well, let's see. I want to give one of my students a shout out. Let's say, man, I drew in the blank.
Well, I mean, if you're a contractor.
Right. Let's use a contractor.
So you're a painting contractor. You paint houses.
Right.
Okay. Well, like I said, so you've got this house. You're going to paint it. You're going to be on ladders. Mm-hmm. They want you to have liability insurance because what if you are taking that ladder and moving it and you go through a window in the house, or somebody's up on the ladder and they fall off the ladder,
right?
Or the ladder just falls and it happens to fall on a Lexus, or that's why you have insurance because there are people that can be hurt. There are things that can be hurt,
right? So
most of the time with a general liability policy, a GL, it's a $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate or the annual maximum, or it could be $2 million,
right,
to start with. And most times that you're having a job like that, they're going to require $1 million of liability insurance.
Right. Okay. So basically, when it comes to, and like I said, I'm really big on the entrepreneurial thing because I'm trying to help a lot of entrepreneurs get their business off the ground and be protected. So which is one of the biggest reasons that I have you coming later on this morning to speak to my classroom, to my students in this particular position. And I think that you tell a really good story. I've heard you several times, talk about the importance of having the insurance. And you put it in ways where a lot of times people don't think about that. They don't think about the what ifs. So before we, get into that, I want to break for station identification, but I want to come back to that point. So we will be back after station identification. We'll be back with more Bob Tassone, Port Financial Services. Welcome back, everybody, to the Cherokee Edwards Inspired Show, and we are here with Bob Tassone of Port Financial Services. And Bob, we were talking about the importance of insurance. The importance, because a lot of people, I've seen it where people have driven cars where they're not insured. I come from a place where very few people have, and they definitely don't have full coverage. If they do have insurance, it's usually liability. But you believe in full coverage.
Well, the term full coverage usually refers to having comprehensive and collision coverage. So it depends on the car that you're driving.
Right.
If once a car gets to be a certain age, you may not need to have comprehensive or collision, because anything that happens to that car, it's going to be totaled.
Right.
And the definition of a car that's totaled is the cost to repair the car is more than what the car is worth. The
value of the car, right.
So you get to a point, now once again, most people have full coverage because they're required to. Why are they required to? Because the bank or credit union, whoever loaned them money to buy the car, says you've got to have it covered fully.
Right.
Because if something happens, you get into an accident, we want to make sure that there's money to pay us.
Right. Right.
They don't care about you. They want to make sure that their butt is covered.
Right.
And so that's why there's full coverage. After the car is paid for, or if you pay cash for a car, then it's up to you whether you want to have full coverage or not. But if you have full coverage, I think you should think about having a higher deductible on that full coverage. Because if you make a claim for a small thing, a parking lot accident, $500 deductible, it was $2,000 of damage, they paid $1,500. Say, well, that was good. That worked out pretty well. But the insurance company's going to get it back from you.
Right.
They will get it back.
They said they'll raise the rates.
They'll raise the rate, and if you say, well, I don't like this insurance company because they're getting it back from me. I'm going to go to another insurance company. Well, and the other insurance company has this thing that they can look it up, and they can see you had this accident, and they're going to get it back from you too.
So you're not avoiding it.
There's no way you're going to get away from having to pay for that minor accident.
You talked about last week, and that really shocked a lot of us. Prices of the light poles and the little metal boxes that are at the lights. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, if you're in an accident, let's say it's just you, no other car involved.
Right.
But you hit something. You hit a light pole with 3 transformers on the top of it. Or you hit a switch box, or
that little gray box.
Yeah, little box. Some of them are the phone company or the internet company or whatever.
Right.
Some of them are the power company. I mean, there's all kinds of little boxes around. Drive along the road today, you never thought about this before, but now when you go out and you get in your car and start looking at the side of the road, you see these little green boxes.
I swear I do that ever since you said that.
See these little posts that stick up.
Yeah.
And that's Cox Cable or Verizon, or that's how the world works.
You're right.
And so you take one of those out. That's your problem.
Right.
You are the one that took it out.
Right.
And so you need to have enough insurance to pay for that, or they're gonna send you a bill.
I think you were saying something about that box might be a couple $100,000.
It could be. It could be a lot of money.
Wow.
Sure.
There's a lot. I swear. I'm always talking about the education of things, right? It's not just to have it, but it's to know why you have it and what it does for you. So when I listen to you talk about insurances, it's almost like, well, it is. It's the what if. What if this happens? How protected are you?
Yeah. And fortunately, most of these things are very unlikely.
Right.
So they're insurable for a reasonable amount of
Right.
premium.
Right.
If they were likely to happen, you wouldn't be able to insure them.
Right.
Fortunately, they're unlikely, but still, where we sit, if you have the window open, about every half an hour you'll hear the fire station, the trucks going out, because they're not, at the crow flies, they're not far from here.
Right.
And
you hear them.
You'll hear them. They're going to something.
They're going somewhere.
Half the time they're going to a car accident.
Right.
A lot of times they're going through here on 199 because they're headed to 64.
Yep.
They service that part of 64 from here.
Wow.
And that's where they're going. And that's, and a lot of times, fortunately, there's not much that they do. It's not that bad, but they don't know that until they get there.
Right. And they got to be ready.
And then certain times of the year, there are more fires and things when it's dry.
Right.
If the weather's real dry, then all of a sudden they're running every half an hour at some kind of a fire.
And they have those spikes around Christmas time too, behind the lights.
Yeah.
People's trees
So
burning.
so the stuff is happening every day, all the time.
Right.
So there's millions of people
Right.
in Virginia.
Right.
Most of them don't get into an accident,
Right.
but thousands and thousands and thousands of them do.
And they got to be prepared for it.
And you can be a defensive driver. I try to think that I'm a defensive driver.
Mm-hmm.
But bad things happen to good people.
I've said that my whole entire career. I've seen bad things happen to good
I
people.
don't know
every
why
day.
that is.
Just the way it is.
But you get on the you get on the news and you see stuff in Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
A lot of really good people.
Yeah.
Bad things are happening.
Shame.
And it's always been that way. It'll always be that way.
It'll always be that way.
I can't tell you why that is.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. We talk about, all the different types of insurance. You think about things, you say you don't want to use these things. Like, you don't want to use your homeowner's insurance because generally it means a tree just fell through your house. You don't want to use your car insurance because it means you were in an accident. You don't want to use your life insurance because it means you lost somebody. You know what I mean? But like you said, it's that peace of mind. The peace of mind. That's what I look at insurances for.
Yeah, it's a practical decision. I mean, insurance is a financial instrument.
Right.
It's just like a bank account is a financial instrument. A credit card is a financial instrument.
Right.
And there are good uses for them and there are bad uses for them.
Right.
Everything is just like fire. Sometimes fire is a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Water. You need it to live.
Right.
But there's too much of it, you got a
It'll
big
kill
problem.
You. That's right.
Or it's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So it's insurance, and any instrument like that can be good or bad.
Right. Right. Talk about the process. I know I've witnessed it because I've used your services. But tell my listeners the process that you take to make sure that they get the best services out here.
Well, I mean, the process starts with just talking with them and finding out what is their situation and what have they done already.
Right.
I mean, I don't sell insurance. I just talk to people.
Right.
Sometimes they buy an insurance policy, and sometimes they don't. But the process is to talk to them and to get some information, find out what they've already done,
right,
and then find out what they have, what they need to protect.
You have a phrase, and it's to do no harm.
And then,
I always like.
I believe in doing no harm. So it's
yeah.
In other words, if you've got something that is okay,
You don't try to guide
I
them
don't
into
see any
something
reason
else.
to change it.
Right.
So I mean, anything that I do, I try to justify it to myself, because I've got to justify it to myself before I can justify it to you.
Right.
And so I look at it and I say, is this really, does this make sense? Would I do this?
Right.
And sometimes people, I'll tell them, just stay with what you got, but I want to have it with you. Well, we'll find something else to do, but leave this one alone.
Right. That's what I've always liked about you, is that you're not the guy that just wants to get somebody into something for your benefit.
Well, in the long run, I mean, when you treat people right, you sleep at night.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it works out anyway. I mean,
Oh, yeah, of
there are
course.
3 rules to being successful in business. The first rule is to take care of your customer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second rule is to take care of your customer. And the third rule is to take care of your customer. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of your customer, someone else will.
Someone else will. That's right. So take the time for a moment and tell our listeners how they can get to you. How can they find you?
Well, they can give me a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the same cell number for 25 or 30 years, so it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 757-870-3521. There's also an office number that I don't give out as much.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually people are just looking for me, and if I'm with somebody or I'm doing a podcast or whatever, then it'll go to my voicemail.
Yep.
I have a very nice message on my voicemail.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, that my friend Vanessa did.
Yep. Vanessa
And-
Voices. Shout out to Vanessa.
And just call me on the phone. There's email. You can text me.
Give us the email address as well.
My email is bob@port-financial.com or
Okay.
bob@port-insurance.com. Either one works.
Okay. Now, do you take care of people outside of the state of Virginia, or is it just in the state of Virginia?
Yes, I work primarily in Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm licensed in 4 or 5 other states, but I don't work in those states very often.
Okay.
I'm working on some stuff for a client up in Maryland right now. So when that happens, I'm appointed with insurance companies in Virginia, but I need to make sure I'm appointed with them in Maryland.
Okay.
So I'm going through some of that right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you're also the president of the Leading Edge Business Group, which we are teammates there as well. Do you want to have anything brought up on that? Did you want to send a shout out or anything?
Well, we've been around for a long time, and I think the reason that we last is because most of the people have that same customer service, do no harm,
Mm-hmm.
take care of your customer, do the right thing for people attitude.
That's right.
And if somebody is in the group that doesn't work that way, they will usually peter out themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you're not taking care of your customer, you're not going to survive in the long run anyway.
That's right.
But we've got people in the group that have that same work ethic and overall ethical practice.
Yeah. That's
And
a great group.
And so when you refer someone, you know that they're going to treat them properly. There are people that have been in that group for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Me on and off for 20 years.
Right.
But
Great group, though.
yeah.
So, with that being said, guys, Bob, thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for giving us some time. And guys, give him a shout out. Go take a look at it. I vouch for myself, not just as a teammate, but I am a client of his as well. He's taking care of my business and my wife's business. So, great guy. Make sure you insure things and protect yourself. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. God bless. And we'll talk to you soon. 30 minutes.
No,
See?
30 minutes went by quickly, didn't it?
Yes, it did. All right, guys. Thank you guys for jumping on here. Once again, this one was for Port Financial Services with Bob Tassone. Insure your business. Protect your company. Insure your cars. Insure your business. Entrepreneurs, make sure you protect yourself. The one thing you don't want, you just don't want to find out what bills can cost you if you are not insured. All right? Thank y'all for jumping on here with us this morning. I hope you guys have a great day. Get out there, give it your best. Don't settle for less. Like always and forever, let God do the rest. Peace, and I'll see you on top.